The World War I, also known as the Great War, was the first war ever to be experienced that occurred on a global scale. A large part of Europe was destroyed and there were unprecedented number of casualties and the wounded. The war not only economically and physically damaged the nations, but also left psychological and social trauma to the generation that fought in the war. This generation that came after the World War I was called the Lost Generation. Members of the Lost Generation were born before 1900 and came of age during the World War I, in the post-period of the Roaring Twenties. Most young men served as officers and soldiers in the battlefield during the war. The generation experienced a great loss of their friends, families, colleagues, and lovers during the wartime. Even after the war has ended, there was a lasting period of mourning for the dead. In this sense, this age group of young men and women was called the Lost Generation, meaning that the generation was disoriented and directionless. After the severe destruction and chaos of the war, somehow followed an overly extravagant and luxurious period of the Roaring Twenties. America accumulated immense wealth through war industry and business, and there were a new rich class in metropolitan cities that suddenly gained fortune. The sharp contrast between the economic prosperity of the Roaring Twenties and social trauma that World War I had left on the Lost Generation is shown distinctively in the literary works created during and after the war. The Lost Generation is depicted well in the novel The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald was a member of the Lost Generation. He joined in the U.S. Army in the First World War and lived through the latest Jazz Age that came after. The characters in his renowned classic The Great Gatsby are also part of the Lost Generation. Gatsby accumulated humongous wealth through illegal business during the war. His lover Daisy is a lit from a prosperous family. They throw grand parties, have social gatherings with fellow elites, and enjoy extravagancies and entertainments of the city. And yet, their minds are somewhat empty and lost with no specific aim of living, which is shown through obsession with drugs and alcohol and affairs outside of marriage. There is a passage from The Great Gatsby that shows the reality of the Lost Generation. The lights grow brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun, and now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music, and the opera voice pitches a key higher. Laughter is easier, minute by minute, tipped out at a cheerful word. People were not invited, they were there. I began to like New York, the racy, adventurous feel of it at night, and the satisfaction that the constant flicker of men and women and machines gives to the restless eye. At the enchanted metropolitan twilight, I felt the haunting loneliness sometimes, and felt it in others, young clerks in the dusk, wasting the most poignant moments of night and life. The Great War, with force and destruction never encountered before, left scars on the young minds that worked to rebuild the ruined societies. Here we can also realize once more how damaging a war can be on humanity.